Hello and welcome to He Knows. My name's Chris and I am your host. And tonight, once again, we're going to be talking about Miles Guo. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on locally here in America. And hopefully, we'll try and find some truth in what's going on. Well, there's only 36 more days for the Bribem, I did say Bribem administration to be able to cause harm to the United States. Just this week, Bribem pardoned two, not one, but two Chinese spies that had been working in the aviation technology sector to steal technical information and ship it back to the motherland, the CCP. In addition to that, he also pardoned a high-ranking member's relative in the CCP. Now, this individual was caught with 47,000 disgusting, inappropriate images of children on his computer. Now, this guy was a doctoral student at Southern Methodist University. That's Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. Southern Methodist University is a religious college. And it seems to me that the last thing that the Protestant religion wants anything to do with is having one of their students caught with 47,000 images of grotesque, disgusting images of children on his computer. And the Biden president pardoned this guy, gave him clemency, and released him. Was this a quid pro quo for money he received throughout his presidency that wasn't exactly accounted for with gifts to China in the form of policy? I don't know. Maybe this was just one of his last efforts to make up for those monies that he's been paid. Now, these horrific images shouldn't really be a shock for somebody from the CCP. In addition, it shouldn't be a shock for somebody like Biden, who from his very own daughter's diary, we know that there have been some very, very disgusting things happen in that household. If you're not familiar, just go and do a quick internet search on Ashley Biden's diary entries, and you'll find exactly what I'm talking about. It's disgusting. So that is one of the biggest things that we've had happen this week, and is with regard to the Biden administration. Now, in addition to that, we've been seeing reports of drones being sighted in New Jersey. Nobody seems to know what these drones are doing in New Jersey. These drones are flying low and slow at night. So what's the point? Now, normally you would think a drone, well, that would be doing something during the day, because at night they're generally blind. They usually have cameras on them. They have somebody flying them from a station with joysticks on the ground, and they can use the cameras on those drones to be able to see what's going on. But the problem is we're also getting reports that there may be something very, very, very bad taking place in America right now. Those drones, from what I've been reading, are American drones. Those drones are flying low and slow at night because they are trying to listen in to communications chatter between maybe the CCP, deep state, maybe somebody trying to cause harm to America, maybe somebody who wants to put Russia and America against each other in a war. And so what's happening? Well, rumors are, and the reports are, that what's going on is that there is a nuclear device, either a full-blown bomb or a dirty bomb, sitting out there just waiting to be detonated. And as the story goes, they're wanting to detonate it before Trump takes office. Now, what would that do? Number one, in my opinion, that would totally destroy any legacy that Biden had even an inkling of an opportunity to preserve. He would be the only president to ever allow a nuclear device to be detonated by a foreign or terroristic party on U.S. soil. I'm praying that this doesn't happen. But these drones are said to be fitted with sniffing devices and listening devices, sniffing for gamma radiation coming from a nuclear device and listening for communications that are being sent to said device so that they can track it. They can get special ops, special forces in to take care of the situation, clear it out, and make everything safe. Now, the problem is that those drones that are seen in New Jersey are also being seen in New York. They're also being seen now in Maryland, and they're also being seen all across the country. It seems to me like there are likely 3 main targets that the CCP, deep state, evil entities against the American culture would want to take out. Number 1 would be New York. Number 2 would be Boston. Number 3 would be LA. New York and Boston scares the crap out of me because I have friends in both places. LA scares me as well because if a device was detonated over LA, the prevailing winds within the jet stream would take that fallout and spread it all across the country, creating damage that is just untold. So this is why I am pretty concerned about this whole situation. I'm hoping that they get some closure to what's going on. I hope they find what they're looking for. And I hope that the government, Biden administration, starts telling us exactly what's going on. Don't keep us in fear. Don't keep us in a position where we have to get our information from somewhere else. Because you know what? The information always leaks out. And then when it's not you, the Biden administration, that tells the American citizens what's going on, and it comes from somewhere else, that makes you look that much worse. As if it could be worse anyway. In other news, Christopher Wray has resigned. It seems to me that he has been caught red-handed spying on Kash Patel. Now, Kash Patel, who is currently up to replace Christopher Wray as director of the FBI, was very instrumental in debunking the Russia collusion nonsense that broke out in 2016, 2017. Exactly the crap that Hillary Clinton put into play, and then the FBI, CIA all ran with. Kash Patel was instrumental. He was the tip of the spear when it came to debunking that nonsense. And it's gone. It's completely done. There is no way to show that that was ever true. No more PP tapes, no more hoaxes, no more crap. We got to stop this stuff and get our FBI back on track. I love what I'm hearing from Kash Patel, that he wants to shut the Hoover Building down and the very next day open it up as a museum. And everybody that's working in the Hoover Building today would then be out on the streets looking for and working to solve actual crime. Maybe they could finally give us a list of the FBI assets that were in the streets at the January 6th rally that was then, quote unquote, turned into an insurrection. We know it wasn't. Maybe they can also find out and tell us the name of who it was that placed that bomb at the DNC when Kamala Harris was there that same January 6th. I'm not going to hold my breath, but it's fun to try. So what's Christopher Wray going to do? Well, we know he worked for a law firm. Before that law firm, he actually did used to work for Miles Guo. He was Miles Guo's personal attorney. And then he got the sweetheart deal to go work for this law firm as a full-blown partner and pulled tricks for the CCP for years to come, and then was fingered to be the director of the FBI. So my suspicion is he's going to go back and work for the CCP because he knows that's where the money is. Okay. So tonight we're going to go back and we're going to talk about something that I have spoken about before, and that is BGY. We're going to probably talk a lot about BGY, so I wanted to get it out there and be able to tell you exactly what it is, how it is used, why it's the CCP as well as the deep state here in America that use this, and why. So BGY stands for blue, gold, and yellow. Now the blue indicates network surveillance and info control to the public. G is gold, and that is bribes to dignitaries for control. And Y is what we might consider yellow type journalism, right? Sexually compromise your target so that you have full control over their actions going forward. So how do they do that? Well, in China, one of the ways they do this is with what they call the water army. In the water army, they have these life losers who sit there and do text messages to people, trying to get them hooked in, listening to this crap, and they get to troll these people online. These life losers earn about 7 cents per post. Example, a text message, all right? So in some cases, and some people that have been connected to Miles Guo, connected to the whistleblower movement, have more than likely received on many occasions text messages from people and from phone numbers. They have no idea who in the world they are. And it'll start something rather innocent like, "Hi, weren't you supposed to meet me at lunch today?" And of course, the receiver of this text message is going, "What the heck is this person talking about?" And so they get a response. They get the hook set, right? They want to set the hook so that they keep them talking and rope them in. And so a person might respond, "Who is this? I don't know who you are." And then they might say something like, "Well, this is Ashley. Isn't this Amanda? I met you at such and such." And then it goes on and on from there, if you allow it to. A lot of times, what you should do is just go, "Don't know who you are. Consider yourself blocked. Don't text me again." At that point, it's done. They've only had 2, maybe 3 text messages, so they've gotten, a maximum of 21 cents? Woohoo! 21 cents. But these guys that are in this water army have something like 72 phones in front of them, all working different phone numbers, trying to get people hooked in. And once they do, they farm that phone off to somebody else who will take control. It's not a whole lot different from the scams for Microsoft tech support. Your computer is infected with 72 viruses kind of thing. Oh my gosh, you make a phone call to the number, they suck you in, they get control of your computer, they clean out your bank accounts, and you've lost a lot of money. It's not that much different. But in this case, they're trying to rope you in with network surveillance. They want to know who they've got. They want to know information about you, and they kind of sweeten everything as they go. If they find out they're talking to a man, they might send you a picture of a pretty lady. If they find out they're talking to a woman, they might send you a picture of a handsome man. Anything that they can do to suck you in and get you to keep talking, because their theory is that they keep you talking. That means they're getting more information out of you, and they learn your secrets and can control you. It's a lot of social engineering and one of the oldest tricks in the book. Here in America, we have big tech, YouTube, Google, all of those people. They are in control of what we see on the internet. If you went looking, for example, for the Trump-Joe Rogan interview before the election, Google suppressed it. You weren't going to find it. And then they said, oh no, we made a mistake. Yeah, some mistake. We all know that in doing a podcast, if the information isn't typically seen within the first 48 hours, it's probably not going to get seen because it's considered old. So the first 24 to 48 hours is crucial in these things. And when they shut it down, all the information and all of the views that they may have gotten are completely lost. And so they may be pushing information through their platform saying, okay, if somebody searches for vaccine, we're going to push that. Yes, you should take the poisonous vaccine. I'm adding the word poisonous. You should do it because you don't want to get your grandmother sick. You don't want to get your neighbor sick, even though we all know now that that was complete and utter garbage. They may end up suppressing information, like they don't want you to be able to search for what actually was going on with the January 6th insurrection. They don't want you to know who these people are. They don't want you to know who the players are. The more information you get, the more you can dig. That's why people have turned away from Google, from YouTube, have started using platforms like Rumble and X that are more free speech oriented. And the CCP, no matter what they do, or the European Union, who is basically following along at the orders of the CCP these days, cannot shut down Rumble. And we all know and have seen what Elon Musk has said. He basically called him out and said a big F you if you're going to try and suppress free speech. Don't do it. Let people believe and seek the information they want. Okay, so that's blue, network surveillance and information control. Now, on to gold. Gold is the bribing of dignitaries for control. We all know the Bribem administration has been a very solid target for CCP money, but not only CCP money. Think about this. Biden just pardoned his own son for any crime. Okay, do they know of crimes that he hasn't been charged with yet? But for any crime going back to 2014, which just so happens to coincide with Vice President Biden at the time being the point man on Ukraine, his son, his useless, know-nothing, drug addict, no-tooth son, Hunter Biden, being a board of directors member of Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company, and making tons of money every month, and he knows nothing about the energy sector. Is that not a quid pro quo? Is that not setting it up? Is that not making things happen so that all of the bribes come back in to 10% for the big guy? I think so. So from Hunter's lack of experience, we know that he would never, ever should have been in that position. All right, so that's gold, bribes to dignitaries. And we've got the perfect example. We've got the CCP bribes. There was a very large diamond that was given to Hunter Biden. There was $3 million given from a Russian dignitary. All of these kleptocrats buying into the Biden resource as they used him in order to get what they wanted from American policy. Now, we're going to go on to yellow. And this has been huge here in America as of late. Yellow is the sexual compromise of the target. Lots and lots of examples. Currently, we're looking at Diddy, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy. Yes, the Diddy parties, as they say, with the latest, with the celebrities escaping from America ahead of the Trump administration because they know what's coming. I believe that once the DOJ is cleaned up, once the FBI is cleaned up, once the military is cleaned up, these people will have nowhere to hide. Why is it a incredibly well-known basketball player who happened to say, "Ain't no party like a Diddy party," all of the sudden would walk away from his sport? What video is he on? Rumor has it that they're auctioning off on the dark web videos of him at Ain't No Party Like a Diddy Party. So that's kind of disgusting if you look at it that way. We also have information that all of these Diddy parties were caught on tape. Now, what seems very odd to me is that these celebrities, these politicians who went to these Diddy parties when were all caught on tape after hours, all of them are now trying to buy their own videos off the dark web. But it seems a little strange to me, because if you were trying to keep the scam going, wouldn't you have made copies of those videos? You're going to sell one back to the target and say, okay, now that you've got it, now you know it's real, but I've got 5 more copies. What you going to do now? More money? Maybe? How do you buy yourself out of that? You don't. You wind up, you're owned for life. If you don't want that information out, and they say, we're going to need you to do something for us. What are you going to do? Say no? All of a sudden, your information comes out there? I don't think so. You're not going to want that to happen. You're going to be at the beck and call of whoever it was, CCP, Deep State, Diddy, Epstein. I mean, it goes back further than that. We don't even have the guest list at the Epstein parties on Little St. James Island, do we? We know who was in the flight logs to some degree, but we don't know who's on those videos. And, it kind of makes you wonder, is he even expired, if you know what I mean? So Epstein, Diddy, they're not the only ones that have been doing this. There's a house in New Orleans that burned down a few years ago that they say was completely wired with video cameras. And people from the music industry, people from the Hollywood industry would all come there too. And people from politics would come there. And here's how it works. You go to a party, you're having a drink, you're mingling. All of a sudden you start feeling a little woozy. All of a sudden you don't exactly know what's going on, and you get tired. You fall asleep. And at that point, they've got you. All they have to do is put you into a compromising position with maybe an underage girl or an underage boy, depending on what your background is. If you're a religious person who has a wife and children, and you're of the male persuasion, maybe they put you in a compromising position with a young boy or a young man. Same thing with the other way around. If you're a woman, they want to get control over you. They give you a little drinky winky with something in it. You find yourself kind of dozy, woozy, not real sure what's going on. You turn around the next day, you get a couple of pictures in the mail saying, look, you're going to do what we tell you. You're going to vote the way we tell you. We own you for life. What are they going to do? All of a sudden, you start voting absolutely with your party forever, as in the case with the Democrats, or you start voting against the better interests of America and against what the American people want you to do, because you don't want that secret out. You don't want to destroy your career. And this is how we wind up with politicians in these positions. The other way they do it with sexual compromise is maybe they slip in a honeypot, get you involved. Maybe you're married, Eric Swalwell. Maybe somebody by the name of Christine Fang comes in, Eric Swalwell, and you end up in some kind of a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy. Maybe, Dianne Feinstein, you end up with a Chinese spy as a driver for 30 years. Maybe there's more than just a few of these politicians that have this problem. I'd say there is. I'd say there's a lot of them. Hopefully, we can get them cleaned out. Hopefully, this all starts going away. All right. We're going to ease into our first video of the evening. And it's going to tell us a little bit about the time when Trump almost signed the paperwork to extradite Miles Guo. Please go ahead and play.
单伟健是王岐山的马仔，康点儿的哥们儿。到今天在西方的渗透，他对我们越攻击，他造的假文件越多，他未来他倒霉越大。你们忘了吧？2016年、15年、16年、17年，比他牛叉的人是谁呀？海根巴森，美国建国以来最大的司法部腐败的案子。
I think we might have a small technical issue with that video. Let's give it just a second and see what happens. But in the meantime, I'm going to go over a couple of the highlights. Give me a high sign if we get in a position to where we can go ahead and play that. But Miles had just brought up the name George Higginbotham again. And one of the highlights of that video is that George Higginbotham had been the largest corruption case in the U.S. Department of Justice's history, where he had embezzled $70 million. $70 million. And this was all in an effort to get Miles deported back to China. But it wasn't just George Higginbotham. Elliot Brody wanted $3 billion in order to get Miles taken down. $3 billion. It's absolutely stunning, the amount of money. Steve Wynn got involved. Now, the interesting thing is with some of these guys is that some of them had cases against them for FARA, F-A-R-A, Foreign Agent Registration. Let me make sure I've got that correct. Foreign Agent Registration Act. Yes. So they went with FARA charges. So that what that winds up being, if you get a FARA charge, is you are working on behalf of another country. In this case, the PRC, the People's Republic of China, essentially the CCP, because the CCP is in control of China. Maybe it certainly shouldn't be, but that's the way it is right now. So when you hear PRC, just understand that what we're talking about is the CCP. So when Elliot Brody, when George Higginbotham, when Steve Wynn, all of these guys went up against DOJ charges. And what is completely stunning to me is at the end of Trump's term, not to forget Nikki Loom Davis. She actually is the probably only one still left in prison based on these charges for FARA, all working on behalf of a foreign agent or working as a foreign agent. So Steve Wynn, his case, I don't understand this, but this is apparently, justice delayed is justice denied. And in the Steve Wynn case, they ruled against the FARA charge and they essentially let it go. Not only that, but it went to an appeals court, and a 3-judge panel at that point decided that there's no reason now for him to register as a foreign agent. Well, of course not. Number one, he was no longer in a position of power with the RNC. Number two, he wasn't being paid by the CCP because he wasn't in a position of contact. He, as a member of the RNC committee, higher ups, had the contact, had the position to be able to get in as a Trump insider and try to convince them in order to deport Miles. And so they went on in that video to talk about people that we've already spoken about. Sun Lijun, who was in Shanghai. He's the one that got very, very angry at Nikki Loom Davis, Pras Michelle, and Elliot Brody when they went over to Hong Kong and then Shanghai under the cover of night in order to have a meeting with Sun Lijun. Meng Jianzhu, the father of Zhou Lo. This piece of human garbage was very well connected with little Wang Qishan. We can't ever forget to bring up little Wang Qishan because, again, he is the genesis of all of these troubles that Miles has run into. Little Wang Qishan is still trying to make up for the troubles that his emissary in Beijing got into, and he's still wanting to take Miles down. So another name that you're going to know, Jack Ma. At one time, Jack Ma was hugely popular worldwide. He was the face of Alibaba. What happened to Jack Ma? Well, he got involved in this because he's a billionaire businessman, but he seems to have failed in his task as well because Alibaba was stripped from him. His property was stripped from him. Everything that he owned outside of Communist China, outside of the CCP tentacle reach, he was forced to sell and give that money back to the CCP. We know this because we've heard the stories. Other people, Yang Lan, her husband, Bruno Wu, both are spies. They sought out Bannon. They, as we'll see, they tried to also honeypot Steve Bannon, which actually kind of makes me laugh. I had an opportunity to meet Steve, and he does not appear the type that's going to be easily seduced by some honeypot. He's a little smarter than that. But here comes the kicker. They tried to sell Trump on the fact that Miles Guo is a rapist. Now, the story comes from a woman by the name of Ma Ray. Now, Ma Ray worked for Miles on apparently a number of occasions. Worked for him in China. And then when he left China and went to London, she worked for him there. And then after that, she worked for him when he was in New York City. Now, what's interesting in an article from New York Daily News that they claim in Ma Ray's alleged rape lawsuit against Miles, that when she was working for him in London, she escaped Miles, went to the Chinese embassy and was able to go back to China. Okay, if you escaped Miles in London, and it wasn't until after he lived in London that he lived in New York City, why would this woman, this life loser, Ma Ray, go to work for Miles again and then claim to have been raped twice? This story's got more holes in it than she does. So, yes, on our graphic there, we see an image of Ma Ray, and this is the factious case against Miles. It really reminds me of the E. Jean Carroll case against Donald Trump. E. Jean Carroll, in case you don't know, most people do, but I'll tell you anyway, she's a crazy woman. Had delusions of Trump, made a case out of it when the CCP and Deep State were trying to ruin his political future when he decided he was going to run again for 2024 election. So what they did was it looks to me like they even passed a new act in New York. First of all, they passed a new law to where the statute of limitations was extended from 3 years to 20 years in the cases of rape or sexual misconduct. Since the case did not, since E. Jean Carroll's case did not fall within those boundaries, they went back and took another bite at the apple and decided they were going to pass the ASA. The ASA is, I want to make sure I get this correct, is the Adult Survivors Act. So this ASA gave a time period of another year, and that other year is exactly enough time for E. Jean Carroll to file her case and be able to completely misremember all of the facts from the case. I don't believe a word of anything that E. Jean Carroll has to say. None of it. On top of all that, this crazy loon of a woman went on Anderson Cooper's show on CNN, and in the course of the interview, she started making claims like, I think rape is fascinating. You think rape is fascinating? Yikes. That doesn't make any sense. You're suing Trump for rape, yet you think rape is fascinating. And then you say you think Anderson Cooper's fascinating. He's wonderful to talk to. The woman is a loon. Okay. So do we have that video that we can go back to yet?
单伟建是王岐山的马仔，康点儿的哥们儿。到今天在西方的渗透，他对我们越攻击，他造的假文件越多，他未来他倒霉越大。你们忘了吧？2016年、15年、16年、17年，比他牛叉的人是谁呀？海根巴森。美国建国以来最大的司法部腐败的案子，仅仅一个律师就7000多万美元，到了所谓的中共驻华盛顿大使馆去勾兑，背后是谁？史蒂夫问，
对，
史蒂夫问不比你屁大多了。埃利波一迪要拿30亿美元搞我，孙立军、孟建柱、王岐山、康点儿、马云、药师兰老公找班农去，要把药师兰送给班农去。然后美国当时时任总统 Donald Trump 啊，郭文 Miles 郭 Reaper everybody， 我强奸全世界所有人。哦，给我这签那个字啊 ，Miles 郭 Repeat everybody。班农说谁？你再说一遍 ，Miles 郭他怎么强奸所有人了？你想想当时的画面，是吧？你想想当时伯明，你想想当年的司法部长塞森斯，大早上起来的7点钟给美国总统做简报。结果这川普拿过来，哎，把那个我想说签一下啊。那个律师 Chris 超级好，白宫律师说什么？你要签这个？你签了这个你就完了，你就得离开白宫，这是犯罪，你没权利签这个。然后说，哎，对，这是我们最重要的人，你怎么能签这个？你签了你完是吗？他说，你知道他是你的马拉哥会员吗？是吗？他都不知道。他说他就是那个郭文贵 Miles 郭，你要签的这个强奸 everybody 的人就是那个 Miles 郭。史蒂芬问埃利波伊迪，埃利波伊迪老婆律师海根巴森，司法部副部长等，还有是华尔街什么布莱克斯顿，你去想想，全人类 多牛啊 ！PAG 算个鸟毛啊，他算个啊！当时把七哥也没撂倒。你去想想，当时给欧洲的人打电话，给中东的某国家打电话说，只要你把郭文贵给我弄回来，一切交易可谈。
So, fortunately for Miles at the time, Trump was listening to people like Bannon, like the White House attorney Chris, like Deputy National Security Advisor Matthew Pottinger, who informed President Trump at the time that Miles Guo was an asset to national security. Now, why was Miles an asset to national security? Because Miles knew and knows where the bodies are buried as with respect to CCP activities. He's got the connections, he's got the information, or can get the information. That is why little Wang Qishan, was so active in trying to get Miles extradited, no matter the cost, no matter who he had to bribe, no matter who he had to pay off, whether it be foreign dignitaries like Higginbotham, Elliot Brody, Steve Wynn, whether it be presidents of European countries, come to say France, because we know from last week what happened in France with the death of one of the founding members of PAG, with the disappearance of the president of Interpol, who was the first Chinese president of Interpol. So the French probably started asking questions or got involved in trying to make things happen. And then we also learn of a Middle Eastern country. They said as long as they can get Miles Guo, Go Wengwei, back for me. Now this is little Wong talking. As long as you can get him back for me, all deals are negotiable. Now that tells me that he's willing to pay nearly any price, which essentially means to me they're going to use companies like H&A, like PAG, like all of the Chinese banking industry in Shanghai, which he has a stake in. Any amount of money that he needed to spend, he was going to spend it in order to get Miles Guo. Now here comes the one of the most amazing pieces in this, in my opinion. The next video is going to talk about President Xi and a supposed letter to Trump. Let's go ahead and roll it.
这封习主席的亲笔信是一个说是有 title 的。我们律师和我们都问班东先生，那你看到这个签名了吗？他说我撸了一眼，好像有签名，说这就有问题了。这就是我们法治基金要定的事儿了。中国政府习近平的信怎么会通过一个个人史蒂芬问来给美国总统？而且明确是头天晚餐时候交给总统的，而且有10个这个美国最高级的人正式的提出来把我遣返，有50个高级人参与了这件事情。用班东先生说，这些人都是前所未有的，从来没有过，这个人说求过总统的，都是几十年关系。从他当了总统更是不可能。但是就史蒂芬问干的事，史蒂芬问现在美国正在调查，如果按照这个事实发展下去，他最低是8年，甚至更多的，就是没有登记外国政府代理人，还有一个他就实现重大犯罪。重大犯罪，那很多人都会有问题的。那中国的主席怎么可能？你把一个主席的亲笔信，官方的通过一个商人转给美国总统，要求遣返郭文贵。说所有的后附的文件是什么呢？几乎都是中国国内报纸当时在我未爆料之前对我的报道，就是财新、环球时报， 就以胡舒立的报道为证据，然后就要这把我遣返。这在美国这是绝对是犯罪的，因为你没经过调查，你没经过程序核实，这封信的来路也不对，这里边有啥猫腻啊？那个吴增怎么个将来就是每天都是习近平主席还有彭丽媛这个女士的什么心理治疗师啊，是哥们儿啊，经常喝酒啊，而且说到王岐山的时候，其中一个游说人士说到王岐山，就是王岐山对这事情重视程度啊，说什么都可以谈，这是贿赂啊，这已经是贿赂。第一个说习主席写的信亲笔信，说叫 make my，让我就是帮我一个个人的忙，高兴的忙，这意思就像行贿受贿一样，是 make my favor。在西方这个意思就是哥们儿，够意思，帮我一忙啊。一般这种事都不是好事。你想中国主席会这么干吗？我不相信，我到现在我不相信。这是昨天我为什么我说法治基金第一个事在美国先把这事搞明白。这是下步我们对吴增啊采取的行动当中最重要的一部分，啊，他的公司里边请了所谓的美国政府官员，包括前司法人员，啊，我说这个吴增的说的话和他的行动，和那封信的来源，还有关于我这件事的背后牵扯那么多人，包括那埃利波的什么什么一堆司法部已经认罪的官员，这里面我怀疑就是这封信就是假的。
So I'm definitely on the side of Miles here. In my opinion, there is absolutely no chance that a personally handwritten letter from Xi Jinping would be delivered to President Trump by way of a U.S. businessman, Steve Wynn. There's no chance. I would venture to guess that that letter was a complete and total fraud, that it was only meant to deceive, and thank goodness that it didn't. And this is probably what has led to a lot of Trump's issues over the course of the last 4 years, maybe even longer. He didn't go along with what the deep state wanted, what the CCP wanted. He didn't do their bidding. And when he didn't do their bidding, because of good folks like Steve Bannon, they went nuclear on him. They decided that they were going to do everything they could to take Miles out. So I think that this letter was a total fabrication, was a total fraud. Xi Jinping, if he met with Trump on several occasions. They met here in America. They met at the Forbidden City in Beijing, beautiful place, by the way, and it would have been delivered by Xi Jinping himself. There would have been no reason to do a silly, fraudulent, handwritten letter forged, which is exactly what the PAG crew, which is exactly what everybody who follows Wang Qishan have done between what I suspect are completely fraudulent rape allegations from Ma Rae to the attempted takedown by Elliot Brody, Pras Michel, all of these players, every one of them have been found guilty or have had a case led by the DOJ. In the end, Trump said this is bunk. I'm not going to deal with this. He listened to Bannon. Bannon knew what was going on. Bannon understood the issues that were at stake. He understands how bad the CCP is. And that was the end of it. Folks, with regards to the drones that are floating around, please stay vigilant. Please keep your ears open, keep your eyes open, be prepared, keep your family close, do what you have to do to protect yourselves. I don't know that anything's going to happen. With the grace of God, hopefully our special forces teams will be able to crack what's going on, intercept it, disable it, and make sure that nobody on American soil is harmed by any of this. There is nothing more that the CCP wants than to weaken America and probably weaken Russia by getting these two countries involved in a very hot war. They've been trying through Ukraine for the cost of 4 years. Ukraine will never recover from this. Billions upon billions upon billions of dollars have been sent into this country, most of which probably has come back to line politicians' pockets, but these billions of dollars are gone forever. So keep yourself vigilant, keep yourself alive, keep yourself awake, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for joining me. Good night.